It is 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Good evening. My name is Christian Klein, and I am the chair of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm calling this meeting of the board to order. I would first like to confirm that all members and anticipated officials are present. From the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have Roger DuPont.
Here.
Patrick Hanlon.
Here.
We have Venkat Hawley.
Here.
We have Adam LeBlanc.
Here.
And we have Brad Baranowski, who's our associate.
Here.
Good to have you all with us. From the town, we have Colleen Ralston, our clerk and zoning assistant.
Here.
Have you with us. And then appearing for docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street, we have Manuel and Robin Costa. They're with us. Good to see you. And for docket 3865, 39 Hemlock Street, we have Catherine Bender and Susan Leone. So good to see you both.
Yes, here.
Well. So tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely consistent with the bill signed by Governor Healy on March 28, 2025, which extended temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to June 30th, 2027. The extension of these provisions allows public bodies to hold their meetings remotely by providing live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast by ACMi. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom and who wish to offer public comment should be aware that they will be asked to provide their full name and address so that a complete record of the meeting can be taken in accordance with state law. All participants of this meeting are advised that people may be listening to the meeting without offering public comment, and those people are not required to identify themselves. Any votes that are taken this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. And as chair, I reserve the right to take items out of order in the interest of promoting an orderly meeting. Excuse me. As the board will be taking up new business at this meeting, as chair, I make the following land acknowledgement. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington, Massachusetts, discusses and arbitrates the use of land in Arlington, formerly known as Menotomy, an Algonquin word meaning swift waters, the board hereby acknowledges that the town of Arlington is located on the ancestral lands of the Massachusetts tribe, the tribe of indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and commonwealth have taken their names. We pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historic Massachusetts territories today. Moving on to our agenda, starting with administrative items. These items relate to the operation of the board, and as such, will generally be conducted without input from the general public. Board will not take up any new business on any prior hearings, nor will there be the introduction of any new information on matters previously brought before the board. So the first is item 2 on our agenda, which is the approval of the decision for docket 3863, 144 Webster Street. Excuse me. This is a decision that was drafted, I believe, by Mr. DuPont, distributed to the board for questions and comments, and final version returned to our clerk this afternoon. Are there any further questions or comments in regards to the written decision for 144 Webster Street? Seeing none. I move the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3863, 144 Webster Street, which grants a special permit for an enclosed porch under section 539D in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thanks, Hanlon. So a roll call vote of the board. We have Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Hawley,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes.
The chair votes yes, that is approved. Moves it to item 3 on our agenda, the approval of the written decision in docket 3859, 69 Falmouth Road. This is the decision that was written by Mr. Hanlon, distributed to the board for questions and comments, and a final version posted back to our clerk this afternoon. Are there any further questions or comments in regards to the written decision for 69 Falmouth Road? Seeing none, I move the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve and adopt the written decision in docket 3859, 69 Falmouth Road, which grants a special permit to increase the nonconformity of the left side yard setback under section 813B in the zoning bylaw.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote of the board. Mr. Dupont?
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
The chair votes yes, that is approved. Item 4 on our agenda, the approval of the meeting minutes from the August 26, 2025 meeting. These minutes were prepared by Ms. Ralston, distributed to the board for questions and comments. Are there any additional comments in regards to the minutes for August 26th? Seeing none. Excuse me. I move the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Arlington approve the minutes from the August 26, 2025 meeting of the board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Roll call vote of the board. Mr. Dupont?
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, the minutes are approved. That concludes the administrative items. So before opening tonight's meeting for public hearings, here's some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of tonight's business. After I announce each agenda item, I will ask the applicant to introduce themselves and make their presentation to the board. I will then request that members of the board ask what questions they have on the proposal. After the board's questions have been answered, I will open the meeting for public comment. And at the conclusion of public comment, the board will deliberate and vote to either continue or close the public hearing. All votes will be conducted by roll call vote. The final vote on any matter before the board will be taken at a subsequent meeting once the written decision has been drafted and provided to the board. After the decision has been adopted and signed, the decision will be filed with the town clerk, starting the 20-day appeal period under state law. After that time, the applicant may proceed with their building permit. However, under state law, no decision granted by this board shall take effect until a certified copy of the final decision has been filed with and recorded at the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds in Cambridge by the applicant. So with that, we move to item 5 on our agenda this evening, which is docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street. So if I could go ahead and ask the applicant to introduce themselves and tell us what they would like to do. I will note for the for the public that this is a continuation. We have opened this hearing prior, but we have not received any testimony specifically to this matter. So with that, I will turn to the Costas. Oh, and you're on mute.
So,
There
can
we
you
go.
hear us now? Can you hear us
Yes,
now?
thank you so much.
Okay. I'm sorry, what were you asking us to do?
Just to introduce yourself and explain a little bit about what you would like to do.
Okay. It's Robin and Manny Costa.
I would like to close the porch on the rear.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and open the drawings. We can take a peek. Okay, so this is on the rear of the house.
Yes.
So this is the proposed porch to be enclosed on the 3rd floor, and again on the 2nd, and the 1st floor. And just to confirm, a lot of the reason for proposing this is that you would like the option of having a shaft here to put in it a small scale elevator to allow access to all the floors via elevator, so you don't need to walk up and down.
Yes,
Correct. Yes.
In the future, we're not doing it, right away.
Okay. And then here on the 1st floor, there's a stairs out to a landing and steps down, and
Correct.
then a couple of details, and then we have the elevation. So this is the elevation from the right side,
Mhm.
with the windows and the landing. And from directly behind, so the windows on the second and third, the door on the first, and then the door here at the very bottom for the future shaft so you can roll in straight from the
Correct.
driveway elevation. Perfect.
We might, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
We might add more windows and then we know exactly what we might have to have a little windows where the arrow is.
Okay.
We don't know exactly this exactly right now, but as long as we have the option, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Understood. And then I did just want to briefly open the site plan as well. Plot plan. Oops. Let me rotate. Come on. For whatever reason, it's not wanting to rotate for me. Okay. As you can see here from the plan, so this is the, let's see if there's a better, I think we have a better one in here possibly. Certified plot plan. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. So this is the existing porch, which is noted here. It's open on the first floor and effectively open on the second floor where it's only screened. And the intention is then to, on that larger overall footprint, to enclose the porch on all levels, including on the topmost floor to provide access into the attic level of the home. The proposed porch would be 7.5 feet by 21 feet and be located 20.2 feet from the rear lot line. Because the building is the lot, excuse me, is less than 100 feet, the required rear yard setback is 20% of the depth, so it's 20% of 90 feet, so it's 18 feet is the required rear yard setback. So this is outside of the rear setback and outside of the side yard setbacks. But this will impact the amount of usable open space that is available on the site. Currently, excuse me, the usable open space requires that there be at least a space that's 25 by 25 feet, which there currently is not on the site. So the site technically has 0 usable open space. But usable open space, we judge it by the percentage of usable open space relative to the gross floor area of the building. And by enclosing these porches, the gross floor area is increasing. So technically they need more usable open space, but they will still only have 0. And in these cases before the board just needs to make a determination that what is effectively an increase in the nonconformity, which is effectively invisible on the site, is not more detrimental. And that's what the board needs to reach as a determination this evening. With that, I'm just going to return to the elevations. So you had noted you may add a second row of windows, possibly on this side here. Were there any other changes that you were aware of that you and your contractor may have discussed?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Because we know it has to be look more presentable than it is right now. Make it more cosmetic. It doesn't look perfect.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that the current layout, the reason for the roof being the way it is in order to have enough space in the future to get into the main body of the house from the rear.
Yes, I think I don't like that design because you should go to the peak, the very peak. And actually, the building is going to go more to the left. As I don't know why they draw this that way,
Okay.
but it's supposed to match the rest of the house to conform. I don't like the way it is because it kind of wild. I like to follow the ridge line.
Okay.
Balance both sides the same equal. So I talked to my contractor and I says, well, that's okay the way it is, but I don't like it, and that's what I have a little thing about it. If you can straight the back to the main house, the ridge would have been nice.
Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and stop the share for now and ask the board if they have questions or comments um, specifically for the applicant.
I'm sorry, you asked him a question?
I'm asking for my board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any questions or comments from members of the board? Seeing none at the moment, I will go ahead and open the meeting for public comment. Public questions or comments are taken as they relate to the matter at hand and should be directed to the board for the purpose of informing its decision. Members of the public will be granted time to ask questions and make comments. Those who wish to address the board should digitally raise their hand using the button on the React tab in the Zoom application. Those calling in by phone, please dial *9 to indicate you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the chair, asked to give your full name and address for the record, and given time for your questions and comments. All questions are to be addressed through the chair. Please remember to speak clearly. And once all public questions and comments have been addressed, the public comment period will be closed. So with that, are there any members of the public who wish to address this application, which is docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street? We have a hand raised. Is Steve Moore?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve Moore, Piedmont Street. One question. I've heard in the presentation an awful lot of, we're thinking about, or I don't know why the builder did this, we're going to change it. I thought sort of the rules of this were that they had to build to what gets presented, not have latitude to change things up after you vote on it. Let's say you approve it. Whether or not you're approving a final set of plans with a certain number of windows in a certain place and ridge lines that look a certain way and such. I don't understand why there would be flexibility to change that after the board had made some decision. Maybe I'm not clear on this. Could you educate me, please, Mr. Chair?
Sure. So as Mr. Moore noted, one of the conditions of the board is that the plans that are submitted for the special permit are the final plans that are submitted for the building permit. So if there are proposed changes, the board has a couple of options on how to proceed. The first would be that if the changes are of a matter that the board could include as a condition, then the board could reach a decision with that, doing it that way. If not, then if the proposed changes are probably going to be more significant that can be handled by a condition, then the board may encourage the applicant to seek a continuance in order to change the drawings to be what it is that they would actually prefer to do.
Okay, Mr. Chair, that makes sense to me. And I would hope that the applicant would choose to present what the final thoughts are with the final drawings correct, and the windows in place that are going to be used, not we may add more, we're not sure. Because this is right at the edge of the rear setback, and I'm thinking that that rear wall does look, as I think the applicant even mentioned, pretty blank and pretty I don't know, flat to the neighbor who has to therefore look at it. And I would hope that they could come up with a final design that was a little more aesthetically pleasing before the board votes on it. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address this application? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period for this hearing. So that brings us back to the matter before the board. So as was noted by Mr. Moore, it sounds from the applicant's perspective that there may be some changes coming to the form of this addition, and just wanted to sort of bring that back to the board. What is if there were to be sort of changes to the roof form of the proposal, would the board feel that this is something that we could approve through condition? Or might this be something that we would need to really see what is intended before the board issues a final decision?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. LeBlanc.
I think if we're talking about the roof change, I find that harder to describe in a condition that I
Mhm.
think be understandable for the building inspector to rely upon when he's inspecting the site.
Right.
I think the window change, I think, is easy enough to describe in a condition, but I worry about the roof line and trying to write that. I also am in favor of trying to do that if we can, because I know this is, I believe, the third time we're here. So I do want to try and do what we can to move this along so that they can start their enclosure here.
Right.
Mr. Ch
Mr. Holly.
is there a way we could mark, which is what I think you're doing. So,
Just trying to figure. So I think that applicant had noted trying to go to the peak. So I think one way this could be accomplished. I just don't have to start that again. So if the addition effectively adopted this line, the blue line here, then there would not be as much head height in this area, but it would maintain the full head height here, which is under where the lift goes. And then similarly, could take the window. I don't think we could go fully to the point where it's symmetrical, because otherwise we'll be behind the lift.
Yes.
I believe the applicant also had mentioned something about this as well, but the elevation does not match the plan in terms of the location of the enclosure on the building.
Oh,
The
right.
intent is for it to be centered, correct, as the plan shows it?
So we have
Because that just changes how the roof line reads.
correct. Yeah, so it looks from here, it's not fully at the corner, but it's not fully centered. Back up to the top here. Yeah, so these are slightly
Slightly off.
Yeah. So I think the board, if the board was to say that the porch should be centered,
Yes.
that would then
I don't like that at all.
so shift over the position, it would cut this corner more if we follow this roof line, but
Right.
it's still need to extend beyond.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is, excuse me, is the contractor for the applicant on the call?
Yes.
We're in the business of actually substantially redesigning the way this looks, and
Mhm.
and I think that probably the dialogue should become more of a trialogue with their builder in there to indicate what the builder is recommending and what was intended and so forth. It seems like there's somebody at the table who should be at the table who's not here, or who's not part of the conversation.
Okay. Is your contractor here, Mr. Perez, with us?
Yes.
He's not here. He's not on the call.
Oh, here's the plan. I'm
Right,
sorry.
but he's not on the call itself.
No.
I don't think so. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
I wish he
Mr.
was.
Chairman, I do think that probably at this point, as much as I'd hate to continue this again, but once we get finished redesigning the applicant's addition, it
Mhm.
seems to me we ought to run it by his contractor and come
Yeah.
back and make sure that everything is fine. Nobody has costed out our changes. I mean, there's a whole discussion that needs to take place between the applicant and his contractor about this that they won't have time to do if we're rushing to a decision tonight.
Sure. I guess I would ask with that, I would ask the board, are there any other comments or recommendations they would have for the applicant in their discussion with their contractor to sort of try to complete the plans and make sure that the plans that are the final plans are the plans that they want to construct from? And my sense from the board is that there's no strong opposition to this, that this would not, that the board could reach a finding that this is not substantially more detrimental than the current condition. But we just want to make sure that what you're requesting matches exactly what it is you're wanting to do. And I do appreciate we sort of continued this a couple times and we have asked for a complete set of drawings. I think it's unfortunate that it's not the set of drawings that you were hoping it would be. So I would ask if you could talk to your contractor about firming this up. If the contractor does, needs to talk to me, Ms. Ralston can make that contact so I can speak with them and we can sort of get this figured out once and for all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to
Thank you.
underscore that I at least found the series of hypothetical drawings that we went through a few minutes ago was very helpful in both in understanding what it is that the applicant might be looking to do and what the options might be and sometimes where the difficulties are. And if the applicant can have his contractor look in that discussion, it would probably inform any further discussion the contractor ought to have with the chair to try to get this right. Because, we've done this each time this has been delayed. It's been delayed because of a problem with the drawings. And we really, I think, just in fairness to everybody, need to make this the last time and try to get this right, to get it not just the way we would like it, but get it the way the applicant would like it. It's not fully what they want either. So anyway,
absolutely.
the suggestion is just that it's time. Unfortunately, we don't have another meeting on the 23rd, do we? So our next
We do
meeting is
not, because
beginning
it's
of
a holiday. So it would be the beginning of October.
So our next meeting after that is when?
Um,
October 14th is the second Tuesday in October.
yep.
Well, that certainly is enough time to get it done. But I mean, it's just unfortunate. But I think that the alternative could very well end up being we'll approve something. It won't be what the applicants want to do, and they'll be back for us in a proceeding to amend the permit
Mhm.
after they've done lots of stuff. So it just seems to me that it'll go quicker if we make sure we get it right the first time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Absolutely, Mr. Baranowski.
Did the contractor, does the contractor know about ACMi or the recordings of these? Because I think those are just to kind of underscore what I think Mr. Hanlon's asking is that the contractor should maybe also, since he's not here, he or she's not here, watch the markup itself.
Mm.
Just in terms of it, not mine to weigh in, but it sounds like there might be the contractor something might be lost in interpretation here, and so it might be worth the contractor visually watching it as well, since the
Okay.
recordings are available pretty quickly.
No, that's very
Mr. Chair,
well taken. Yes. Mr.
after the
McCormick.
last meeting, I sent a link to the ACMi
Oh, great.
video to the contractor and the architect. So
Okay.
I can send them this one again too.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay. So with that, are there any other questions in regards to this application at this time? If not, I will move that the zoning board of appeals for the town of Arlington continue the public hearing in docket 3864, 37 Melrose Street, to Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m.
Second,
All right. So with that, then a roll call vote of the board to continue. Mr. Dupont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, we are continued on 37 Melrose Street. And so we will make sure that your contractor gets the links to this, and then if either your contractor or his designer has any questions specifically, Mr. Ralston can put them in contact with me directly.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So with that, returning to the agenda, move it to item number 6, docket 3865, 29 Hemlock Street. This is an application for a variance, and with that, I will ask the applicant's attorney to introduce themselves and tell us what they are proposing.
I'm Suzanne Leone, and I'm representing Kate Bender of 29 Hemlock Street in regard to this variance application. Her other attorney for the sale, hopefully the proposed sale of this strip of land, is also on the Zoom hearing here. That's Jacqueline Bumbaka. But I'm introducing the variance application, and the neighbors of Kate Bender of 29 Hemlock, Dave and Beth Martin of 33 Hemlock, who wish to purchase the strip of land we're trying to get the variance for, are here as well. So the petitioner, Kate Bender, wishes to transfer by sale a 307 square foot strip of land within the recorded boundaries of her property to her neighbors, the Martins of 33 Hemlock. Both of the lots are non-conforming under the zoning bylaw. Therefore, according to the bylaws, we need to get a special permit in order to make one lot a little less non-conforming and the other lot more non-conforming, basically. The purpose is to bring the recorded boundaries of the properties into conformance with how both property owners over the decades have used these pieces of land. So basically, the current property line goes through the middle of the Martins sidewalk, and there's a stockade fence between the properties, and we want to sell the strip of Kate Bender, 29 Hemlock, wants to sell this 307 square foot of land to the Martins just to make the current use of the property in conformity with the recorded property description. As it currently stands, it's wrong. So, and where the current legal property line is, it's very close to the Martins' house. So this all started when 29 Hemlock wanted to fix their fence, and we realized if she put the fence where property line actually is, it would only be about 3 feet from the Martins' house. So we want to keep the status quo, and in order to do that, to prevent, future and adversarial litigation between these two parcels, this strip of the legal transfer of the strip of land is in the best interests of both of the lot owners. Did I explain that okay?
I think so. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just share one of the diagrams you had provided, which may make it a little easier to describe. If you could go ahead and just sort of describe the red line and the blue line and what the yellow zone represents.
Yes. So the red line is where so there's a little triangle at the front of Hemlock Street where the red line is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a gate and plantings over there, or the gate's actually right at that little I have to take off my glasses to see the computer. Yeah, there's a little triangle thing at where it kind of dog legs over.
Yeah.
There's a gate there. So from that gate all the way to the back of the property, up behind where let's see, lot B is at the back of 29 Hemlock, is a fence.
Okay.
And the blue line is where, according to the deed description, the property boundaries lie. But the use of the fence there has been there ever since Miss Bender purchased 29 Hemlock in 2011. Originally, it was a chain link fence, but it was in that same location. She put a stockade fence, which is more attractive. And the Martins purchased their property in 1997, and it was assumed that the property line was where the fences were. And then in the little triangle in the front, there's kind of a raised stone wall in that area, and 33 Hemlock has been planting in that area. There's existing bushes that have been there for a few decades, couple decades, and it's so basically we're trying to preserve the status quo rather than having an adversarial process of such as adverse possession claims and court litigation, etc. So the two neighbors have agreed to go the cooperative route rather than the adversarial route.
Understood. Okay. So the yellow is the land that is proposed to be transferred.
Correct.
Um,
That's the
and-
307 square feet.
Yeah. And that will become a part of 33 Hemlock Street and be removed from 29 Hemlock.
Correct. And
Okay.
unfortunately, this plot survey doesn't show where the house is on 33 Hemlock, but it's about 3 feet from the blue line, basically. And there's actually one spot where there's a chimney that sticks out, and that's only about 2 feet from the blue line. So, the side setback, even with the land transfer, the side setback of 29 Hemlock, to the new property line, the proposed property line, will still be 13.7 feet. It's currently 16 feet. So it's not going to make her property more non-conforming in that way.
Right.
As far as like side setbacks, it's only going to make it more non-conforming in overall square footage.
Okay. Let's go ahead and stop the share on this. So the application the board has before it is an application for a variance, but you had said special permit before. So I just wanted to confirm which way exactly this
So
is.
it's a variance, and
Yeah.
so I went over this with, I don't even remember what's the building department, maybe
Yep.
the board by emails. So we need a variance because we're not, what we're doing is we're asking for an override of the zoning rule as far as square footage goes. But the way the zoning bylaw gives the directions for non-conforming properties, it just says the special permit granting authority. So I think that's why I said the word special permit, but
Okay.
it's really a variance.
Yeah, because so I can go ahead and share this briefly. So we had done a lot of research looking into this and speaking with town council and with the inspectional services about this. So section 816A
Mhm.
notes that a lot shall not be reduced or changed in area so that it is made more non-conforming unless a special permit has been granted under section 813. However, this section shall not apply, but this is not being taken for a public purpose. And so we had looked then under section 813 to see if there was anything in here that would specifically allow us to proceed, and we couldn't find anything in 813. So that's why this is coming now as a variance request, because there isn't an avenue to use 816A. And unfortunately, that's really the only place in the zoning bylaw where it really talks about changing a non-conforming lot.
Yeah, it's really confusing. It doesn't really seem to address the situation at all. And the problem is, since the owner of 29 Hemlock, Kate Bender, has a mortgage outstanding on the property. So in order to transfer the strip of land, the mortgage company needs a proof certification that the town has approved this. So it's kind of the zoning bylaw really doesn't cover the situation, unfortunately. And I think that the town's going to have a lot of these things because we're getting a lot of phone calls about these type of things. Because I think that the new GIS system shows everyone where the actual measurements are more than the old days.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these properties haven't been surveyed in probably in decades.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Which then sets everybody up for these adverse possession claims because there's fences that have been in place for, to your point, decades and then we come in with these, more sophisticated surveying instruments that that demonstrate that things are potentially off by a couple of feet in some instances.
Got it. So this being a variance, so variances are covered under state law under Chapter 48, Section 10. And there's 4 very specific findings that a board needs to make in order to grant a variance. And the board must make all 4 of those findings. And just to briefly, the first is the circumstances related to the soil condition, shape, or topography, especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it's located, that would substantiate the granting of the variance. The second is that how the literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning bylaw specifically related to the circumstances affecting the land or structure noted above would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant. Third is describe how desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. And lastly, that desirable relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning bylaw of the town of Arlington. So these are the 4 findings that the board would need to make in order to grant a variance. So with that, I would turn to the board and ask if there are any questions or comments for the applicant.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hanlon.
One alternative to try to deal with the overall problem that is to have an action for adverse possession, which, I mean, it seems to me sending somebody to court is apt to be thought of as being unreasonable hardship just to begin with, having gone to court lots of times, and it's felt like a hardship every single time. But you do settle these things some way. And suppose an action were filed, and then it was settled, and the settlement was pretty much to do the transaction that Ms. Leone already described. And that would be sort of like a sale, but it would also, the alternative would be for the judge would presumably issue a declaratory judgment or something as to whether there's been adverse possession. At that point, is there any zoning issue left, or would that pretty much solve the problem? I mean, again, just what I'm hypothesizing is that there's an action for adverse possession. You go to the court, he asks you to settle, as they always do, and you say, okay, we could do that. And you come up with the same sort of agreement that you've just come up with. And the town doesn't have anything really to say about it because the court would incorporate the settlement and do this by operation of law. Do you get to where you want to go that way?
Leone?
Oh, you're talking, well, that's exactly, you're exactly right. That's what would happen, and that's what we're trying to get to that point without the expense and prolonged hardship of a court action, which in land court can take several years, lots of attorney's fees, court fees, more surveys, and in the end, it would be the same result. If the court, found in favor of the complaint for adverse possession. And a settlement would look very much like this, selling the land. We know in Arlington, land value is even more valuable than the house values these days. So we would want 33 to own the land, so they would be responsible for the property taxes of that strip of land rather than the neighbors. 29 Hemlock is currently paying property taxes on land that she doesn't use, and isn't trying. She's not trying to use it. She wants to just have it remain as it is, the status quo. The 33 Hemlock, I keep saying the wrong numbers, 33 Hemlock, especially the back of the property. There's lots of rocks and plantings up there. Miss Bender's fence on her side of the property has been there for some time, and she has like grass on your side, or what do you have? It's
I have a wildflower garden.
a wildflower garden. Okay. Yeah, when I saw it, I think it was winter. So, and then but it's kind of it goes up. There's a little incline for both properties. It's a very hilly area over there.
All
But
of this sort of indicates why it is that even if you could get to the same place, you would have a substantial hardship. I'm sort of focusing on that second criteria so that it's just the beginning to the hard one, right? Which will be the first criteria. But at least to me, what you've described is something that even if it gets you ultimately to the same place, does so in a way that probably, in my mind, meets the requirements for substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. Um, Others on the board may disagree with that, but then the key thing is how it is that any of this relates to soils, topography, or shape of the lot.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah. Mr. Dupont.
I'd like to go in a little bit different direction, if I may. And so, speaking from experience, quite a few years ago, I had clients on a street that went from Summer Street down to the lakes. I forget which street it was, over in the Bishop School area. And just for example, the survey for the whole street had been done a long, long time ago, and supposedly every lot had 50 feet of frontage. And say there were 10 lots, so presumably there was 500 feet of frontage. Unfortunately, they were short by 10 feet. And so my client had been somehow decided it was his frontage that was short, but he was using property that belonged to the next door neighbor moving up toward Summer Street. The counsel, the attorney for the next door neighbors was actually Bob and Essie. So we ended up working out an easement, and I think we may have actually put in conditions that spoke to the concept of the portion that was being used by my clients under the easement. Would they pay taxes on that, which relates to Miss Leone's point. So, I was wondering all along as I was reading this, because I can understand how, first of all, I'm sympathetic to the relief that's being requested. It makes perfect sense given the circumstances. And I too looked at the special permit section, and I came to the same conclusion that you had just described, Mr. Chairman. So in looking at the variance, I do think that, it's a bit torturous is probably too strong a word, but it does get you into doing a lot of sort of gymnastics to get to where you could find shape or topography or soil condition. So maybe I'm being simplistic, but my first thought was, what about an easement? Because an easement is certainly, from my experience with lenders, an easement is perfectly legitimate in terms of them being willing to lend. And there may be something here that I don't know and that I'm missing, but I do wonder if that might not be worth considering.
well, so it was considered, but it's for one thing, I just wanted to describe the circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography, especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district that would substantiate it. So my reading of that was the shape of the land. We're not asking for it to be changed because this is how it has been used. It's been how it's been used for decades, and that was my reading of that section. But regarding the easement, so a number of years ago, the property taxes weren't quite as high, right? So who's going to do that math every year? That's what we're getting at. Who's going to figure out is the town going to send a separate bill for the easement section to 33 Hemlock? Are the neighbors perpetually throughout, perpetuity forever going to have agreements between whoever lives in 29 and whoever lives in 33 to write a check to each other for this property tax difference? And who's going to figure that out every year?
Right. I think to your point, Sue, it creates an easement may be a kind of, we were thinking an easement would be more of a Band-Aid solution. It might work for the current owners, but then thinking about owners down the line, if and when the current owners decide to sell, it just kind of turns into this logistical nightmare. To Sue's point, who's going to then be responsible for determining what, who needs to pay whom what.
So
It might even have the effect of diminishing their property values with that kind of onerous, condition attached to both of these pieces of property.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I respect what you're saying, but I mean, an easement in perpetuity means that it's essentially that you have the land forever. And so I think what you're focusing on is, well, what's the value of that going forward? And, you get tax bills that actually say what the land value is and what the structural value is. And so if there's a percentage of the tax bill that's attributed to 29's land, and then there's, you can calculate what the percentage is, each year. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I'm just saying that it's not, I think, that difficult an exercise, or you sort of prorate it and you build it in, going forward, and you say over the next 50 years, we think it's worth this amount of money. I mean, I just think that there are ways of dealing with that, because for us, we're usually, as a board, we're very attentive to the requirements of soil condition, shape, or topography. And we really do need to have something in that, in your circumstances, that we can say that the circumstances have to do with one of those three criteria or more than one. And thus far, I don't really hear anything that ties the issue into the actual, I think the shape was alluded to, but I'm not sure how that is, unless you could sort of give more explanation about how it's the shape of this lot, which is in particular different from the rest of the district.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how, with any kind of variance request for this type of issue where it's a lot size, because that's what we're varying from, is the size of the lot. And they're both non-conforming as it is, but the topography of it is a rocky hill that goes up in the back. I guess it's the interpretation of what that actually means. If you can give me an example of how it doesn't apply, I'm not really understanding that.
Yeah. I mean, the way that the board has consistently interpreted that first criteria under chapter 10, under section 10, excuse me. So there needs to be something about the soil shape or topography that is specific to this lot, the particular matter, that is not a general condition to the zoning district, and that leads to the need for a variance. And so, say there was a large rock outcropping that happened to be on the border between the two properties, and this rock outcropping, property line went straight across the top of it, and it because of the way that the rock was there, and it wasn't it's pretty specific to this one site, it is somehow leading to a hardship, then that is something that the board could look at and say, okay, we can see there's something very specific to the soil and topography of this site that's not general and is leading to this hardship, and there's a remedy that we can do that maybe the property line cuts around the rock, and that makes it more, that would resolve the issue. In this case, well, we're sort of looking at the town GIS, and I can go ahead and just pull that up. So the 29 is here has the yellow highlight. There's a lot of properties that have these sort of trapezoidal shapes that some are undersized, some are full-sized. But they all sort of have similar topography. And so we're trying to find what we can find that is, that is specific to these properties, that is not something that we would find elsewhere in the zoning district. And I think that's what Mr. Dupont is sort of getting at, is how do we, in order for the board to be able to grant a variance, we need to meet all four of these criteria, the first of which there has to be something that is particular to these lots that is not, sort of general to the district.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I think it's important to add to it that it has to be something particular about in these lots that is not generally applicable in the district, and that is the factor that gives rise to the hardship. It's not enough to go and say, well, there's a rock here and there isn't a rock in 3 other places nearby, if that isn't the thing that produces the hardship. And as I see it, the thing that produces the hardship is simply the mistake on where the property line was. And it's hard for me to, even if you could find some unusual soil shape or topography, linking it up to the problem that brings Ms. Leone and her clients here is a little hard to figure out. So anyway, it's not an abstract sort of thing looking at something unusual. It's something unusual that is the causal thing that means there's an unreasonable hardship if the variance isn't granted.
Yeah, I think that it's correct if you back at well, it's gone now, but the GIS you could see on the
I can go back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. There you go.
Is it
Yeah,
there?
proceed,
Oh, there it goes.
There it goes. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize
So
it was
yeah, there it is. So you can see one of the things that's unusual about these two lots is, first of all, they are very undersized compared to other lots in town and many of the lots in this area. But the mistake on this particular lot is the property line is basically abuts their house. And it's just cleaner. It's a cleaner situation to just transfer the strip for.
Sorry, I was waiting for the town to regenerate here.
Yeah.
Come on, Tom. There it goes.
So it's not, by granting the variance, it's not disrupting the character of the neighborhood because we're not changing anything. It's going to be used the same as it's always been used. It's going to look the same as it's always been used. The hardship is that the lot line for these small undersized lots that were created decades ago for some reason were poorly surveyed, and it was just an error, and that's the hardship. Is I'd call that the shape. I guess it could be the topography. There are some rock outcrops up there. I don't know if
But none of them actually contribute to the hardship. That's the problem.
So if I
Mr.
could,
Oh, go on.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add something.
Sure. So David Martin is resident at 33 Hemlock, I believe, correct?
Yeah. So I would agree that the hardship is the narrow, basically the property line abutting our house. And if Kate were to enforce the actual property line, it would be difficult for us to use. We have a walkway that's our sole access right now to the backyard. And also for snow clearing, the driveway, which is shown at the front at the lower left-hand corner, I clear the snow onto that property. So it would be, as I'm getting older, more difficult for me to clear the snow from my driveway if I didn't have use of that, the property that I have that we've been using now. So access to the backyard, and it becomes an issue. I think, Kate we have a friendly relationship with Kate, but if the properties were to change hands, this could be, a more significant hardship for us than it currently is.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Branowski.
can I ask a question about to Miss Leone about I guess I'm trying to think the best case here. And I was wondering, have you found any precedent where Massachusetts courts have basically said, which I take you to be saying, that the cloud of a adverse possession action, because of the way the property's been used for, this looks like to be decades, is a factor that can be considered in the rubric of the conditions of the land? Because I understand what Mr. Hanlon's saying. It sounds like it's not really, at least as I look at it, and it's not endemic to the lot itself. The lot is as the lot is. It's just that the use that has happened over the time has shifted where maybe legally the lot ought to be. So I'm just curious if you found any kind of precedent on this, or this would be something we're kind of breaking ground on here. No pun intended.
So you're asking if the court granted adverse possession?
I know. I'm asking is there any actual case law interpreting this prong of the variance requirement that is at all looks anything like this, where it's factoring in the fact that you have what is in essence, what you're saying is that the lot isn't what the lot in for all intents and purposes isn't the lot that we're looking at here, right? If you actually look at the way the lot's used, that's not the real shape of the lot. And I just am trying to figure out, is there any Massachusetts case law that would say that is enough for a zoning board to consider under the shape, I'm assuming shape or topography of the soil condition of the land?
Well, I haven't specifically looked for the variances granted in lieu of doing an adverse possession claim. And I'm not sure. So when the variances are granted, which is often, then you don't have the case law because there's nothing to fight about. And other towns, other than Arlington, have other methods with which to deal with these situations. So it doesn't become this type of issue where they need a variance. So I doubt I haven't delved into it that deeply yet to discover any case law regarding that reasoning for a variance.
I only asked, the only reason I asked, just in full transparency, is it sounds like that's the hang up here, is that element. And obviously if there was case law that said that we need to interpret that element in the way you would like to, that would be very useful. And so I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something that we were missing here. That's all.
I mean, I can look, but
Mr. Hanlon,
it seemed pretty, I didn't think that my interpretation of I thought that the shape of the lot would cover what we were trying to do, that category, because the other three categories seemed pretty clear to me.
Mhm.
So I wasn't focused on the shape of the lot, as I thought that the shape that the way that the boundaries of the lot
Mhm.
are the problem. And so and we're not really changing how it's used. We're just changing where the legal line is.
Yeah.
And it's really, we're not making one lot, we're not making a conforming lot non-conforming. Both of these lots are undersized. It's kind of crazy topography around there. It's very steep up in the back. Like David Martin said, it's goes right through their walk, which is the access to their backyard. I think we have a picture of the walkway going backwards up there in the submissions.
Mr. Hanlon, are you aware of any variance precedents where, as Mr. Martin had noted, they can't really, there's a hardship for them that they can't access the rear of their lot because of the way that the house is situated on their lot so close to the property line. Are you aware of any sort of precedents where the position of the building on the land can be considered part of the hardship, the part of the soil shape or topography leading to what the
Well,
hardship is?
the answer is no. I'm not aware of any precedent on that. But it is true that, let's suppose we had a case, in fact, we have had cases where the lot is very narrow.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, you can't build a reasonable house like everybody else does in that neighborhood, because to do so would require violating a setback requirement. And and there's no reasonable alternative to that. So that essentially, I mean, you can always build something, but essentially it's unreasonable because of, again, the shape of the lot being so narrow that you can't fit the house in. Certainly the relationship of the house to the lot is exactly what we would look at.
Mhm.
And it is possible under those circumstances um, for us to find, if the other factors point in the right direction, for us to find that there is a variance. I can remember that there was a case that was similar to that, uh, where that was a part of the problem, which I think involved building an addition or something of that sort. So now, what we haven't seen is a situation where everything is already built, and then you discover that the shape of the lot isn't what you thought it was, and to rectify it, you have to essentially change the shape of the lot. That would bring section 8.1.6 in our bylaw into play, right? Because that would not have affected the first example that I gave. Because you wouldn't have been changing the shape, that you wouldn't have been changing the size of a non-conforming lot. Um, and so that's kind of new, but the underlying idea that somehow the relationship of the house to the lot is the critical factor for the variance is something that comes up in other cases. And I mean, I invite Mr. DuPont to comment on this, that comes up in other cases. And we certainly are able to take it into account. And in extreme cases, we've acted on that.
Mr. DuPont, you have?
So I do understand the conversation, I understand what Mr. Baranowski was asking. To me, variances are actually, they're both very simple and they're both very difficult. I mean, for me, when we talk about shape of lot, sort of the most common example of a lot shape that then might give rise to a variance is a pork chop shaped lot. So let's say that you need, 60 feet of frontage, but this lot has 50 feet and the lot is long and narrow and opens up in the back. So it's got this very distinct shape from the rest of the district. I mean, that to me is the more common example of the type of lot that you'd be able to take shape into consideration for a variance. And then as Mr. Hanlon had just stated, where you've got a really narrow lot and you can't possibly conform to the building, setbacks because it's just too close. I mean, that's another example here. And for me, when I think of it, if I don't garble this too much, when I think of a variance, I think that, you have to establish, say shape in this case, and that the shape actually causes the problem so that you can't conform to the zoning requirements, dimensional requirements. And I don't make that leap from the fact that we have a lot which is, close to, where you have a house at 33 that is so close to the lot line that it interferes with their ingress and egress. I don't look at that as the shape of the lot having caused that condition. And conversely, from 29 side, I don't think that the shape has caused that condition for the neighbor. And that's why, quite honestly, I still look at the idea of easement, which is something that you can do by agreement. There is also easement by prescription, which is essentially the version of adverse possession where you're not granted ownership, but you're granted the right to pass over somebody else's land by court decree. So as much as this whole proposition makes sense to me in terms of what's trying to be accomplished, I just don't get to the point where I say, okay, well, this is the shape that's causing our underlying problem for compliance with the zoning bylaw. And, perhaps it's something where in town meeting, we should have some sort of a proposal to deal with the idea where you have, these mis-surveyed lots, which now end up being too close. We have a house too close to a lot line, that there should be some relief that should be available, maybe under special permit as opposed to variance, along the lines of 8.1.6, but without the requirement that you have a special permit under 8.1.3. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I just don't see that shape or topography, that those criteria are satisfied in this particular case.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I just wanted to point out that the application for a variance was filed by Ms. Bender, and it relates to 29 Hemlock Street, not 33. And I assume that's because 33 is actually getting better under the proposal. It's getting bigger, and so therefore it's not a reduction of that lot. It's a reduction of 29. And I'm not sure that there's any variance cases that enable you to rely on the hardship of your neighbor to get a variance for yourself. And so I'm not quite sure, even if we thought that the Miller's problem amounted to the sort of thing that you could squeeze in under the shape, if that would support a variance in this case anyway. I just want to Mr. DuPont has stated what has been orthodoxy in this board. There is often a thought, and I gather in some other communities, people are different, but the soil shape and topography was specifically put into the zoning act back in the mid 70s, because the legislature thought that variances were too easy to get, that whenever it seemed to make sense and nobody opposed it, people were just granting it, and they thought that was undermining undermining the zoning bylaw, and has been with us ever since then. And it's intended to be something that excludes giving variances, even when a variance might otherwise be a very good idea. So you can't go from the fact that you get to a bad result if you don't get the variance into making up what these criteria mean, because they were intended to narrow the gate, to make the path to getting a variance a very narrow one. And here we're getting tripped up on that, it seems to me. But I kind of feel the same way I do with that Mr. DuPont does, that we're enforcing a law here and not just sort of generally saying what we think is a good idea. And we have to live with the decisions we make. And a lot of people who come in here and who ask for variances, and there are people who have been in situations where my heart went out to them, where we had to say no precisely because they couldn't meet these requirements. So I mean, I'm having a real difficulty in trying to reconcile what I think is good policy and what would be right in this situation, and what's good for the neighbors and so forth, and finding it really hard for us under the statute that we're working with to um, to solve the problem in the way that's been proposed to us. And, so this is not necessarily an easy way out. It may be an easy way out for some. For the board, it's a particularly not easy way out. And the idea that you could settle a lawsuit and you could do it relatively quickly, the idea that would mean that you wouldn't actually be reducing the size of the lot, but just recognizing a condition that has already reduced it, so you wouldn't have a zoning problem. Or alternatively, an easement wouldn't be a reduction in the size of the lot either. And obviously that has its disadvantages, but maybe those disadvantages are things that could be worked out. But you're pushing zoning, your variances are something that we rarely grant. And we frequently have people ask and encourage them to find a different way to solve their problem. And this is one of those things where it's really hard, for me at least, to see how and the way in which without authority that Mr. Baranowski was looking for, that the way we normally interpret these sorts of things, it's hard and this is state law that we're interpreting, that it's hard for me to see, to find a way that we can contribute to what I agree would be the sensible result here. I mean, obviously, a transaction of this could be structured in various ways. Should happen here, and they all have disadvantages. But some of them, but they do solve the zoning problem under the statute. But a variance is not, at least for us, something that is easy for us to grant you to help you with that.
But wouldn't a special permit, special permits are for things that are permitted but under review? So if it's not permitted, the lot with the undersized lots, you couldn't do a special permit for such a thing either.
You wouldn't. If
Right,
if you were just doing an easement, for example,
Yeah.
you wouldn't need a special permit.
No, someone mentioned that you could somehow go back and do it as a special permit under 8.1
A168.
8.1.3.
3, yeah.
And I don't think that you can, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see how that, the difficulty there is that that is written in a way that it relates to alterations of structures. You're not altering a structure, so
correct. Right. That's why we applied for a variance, because it's not a structure. It's a lot. But the fact of the matter is that if these two lots were, created after the zoning bylaw and they were conforming in size, we wouldn't even be here, because they could sell the strip of land to the neighbor. So every person in town who has a grandfathered lot, if there's a problem like this, they have to go through litigation to solve the problem. To me, the underlying hardship is the lot size, because in the past, the town made these lots, and it's not the fault of the people that lived here or that currently lived here. It was due to how the town was laid out, with the turn of the century.
At a time when
And
there
then
wasn't,
and
the
then they
zoning was
made
adopted in 1926, I think, but
yeah.
it very well may be that that this lot predates the zoning bylaw. It doesn't help. I mean, the what you can do, what you have as a prior non-conforming uses in this lot size. There is a specific provision of the bylaw that says how to handle that. And that provision of the bylaw, by the way, is pretty much parrots state law, including the 5,000 square feet and so forth. So it's not, you know, a variance to reason to the point where you say that you need a variance is not to say that a variance is available to you. This may not be the avenue you have to use in order to solve the problem.
Now, if I
It's
went back and found some case law, how
if you found some case law that supported your position, that would be terrific. But you haven't
Yeah.
got it. You haven't got that tonight,
No.
and it's not something that would make sense to us, given the way we've interpreted this in many other cases, which always were disappointing to people. But yes, if you can find
Right.
something that supports your position, that would be great.
Right. I thought it was a novel situation.
The statute is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And the statute has a specific provision that it put in there to make it hard to get variances. And as you can see, it is making it hard to get variances. And what we would need specifically is something that had something like these situations that the court said, yes, it was appropriate to give a variance here, that it met the requirements that we have under Section 10. That's the kind of authority that's needed.
So this part, the section of the topography, I can't say the word anymore. The shape, the soil condition, and the topography of the lot is what the factor that you're having an issue with.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And
And that's found in
specifically-
Section 10 of the
Yeah.
Zoning Act.
And specifically how that relates directly to the hardship.
Right.
Unless there's something from the board at this point, we have not heard from the public on this matter, and so I did want to go ahead and open this hearing for public comment. Public comments taken as it relates to the matter at hand should be directed to the board for the purpose of informing its decision. Those wishing to address the board can do the raise hand and the react tab in the Zoom application. I don't think anybody is calling in today. So are there any members of the public who wish to address this application? This is docket number 3865, 29 Hemlock Street. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public comment period for tonight. So I think as we've sort of been discussing, I think in general, I think the board feels that there is some kind of relief that makes sense, but we don't have a path to get there through the zoning, through the variance section in under state law as we understand it and as we have precedent sort of guiding our decisions. So it's only if you would be amenable, it may make sense to go ahead and at this point and continue to see if we can try to find that. To see if there's a way that the board can abide by the requirements of of state law in granting a variance in this case.
I would be amenable to continuing it to
So our next date is October 14th.
um, okay, all right, I can do that. I have an appointment, but I can cancel it. Can the rest of the property owners do October 14th?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, that's fine with us.
All right. And while I'm at it, are you anticipating any issues with the other three factors for under the state variance law? The detriment to the public good, the financial hardship, or the derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning bylaw?
I would certainly encourage any members of the board who disagree with my interpretation here, but I think certainly the how desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and how desirable relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent. Those are I think those are very clear in this case that those we would be able to find in favor. How the literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning bylaw specifically relating to the circumstances affecting the land or structure would involve substantial hardship. I think we can get there, but it really sort of depends on how that first one is framed with that the something affecting the soil shape or topography that is specific to the site that is leading to the necessity of a variance.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hanlon.
I have two things. One is I think that it would be helpful to the board if, and I'm assuming that this is what Ms. Leone was thinking anyway, but that we'd like to see, I certainly would like to see something in writing. These things are things that need to be precise enough that we can understand it and figure out what we can do with it, and sort of doing it conversationally as we've done tonight. While it's been helpful, I think is something that at this point we need what a judge would ask for when he asks for a briefing. So I'd like to see that. And I guess when I started off thinking that going to court and ultimately working out an amicable settlement so that and getting the court to bless it was probably too hard enough to me pass muster. I think that Mr. DuPont's suggestion that this can be done through an easement, and I understand that there are difficulties with doing that and so on, but an easement is a property thing. It's recorded. It can contain provisions dealing with various stuff. And I'm not 100% sure that avoiding the necessity to use that remedy would make this something which comes out to the kind of unreasonable hardship that is required. And I'd like to have Ms. Leone address that. I'm not saying that I feel hostile to that position. I don't really know what I think about that position. I hadn't really thought about the easement as a means of relief here, but I would like to have a sort of precise argument as to why it is that it's unreasonable hardship to work out a relationship where one party pays for an easement. There isn't a change in the lot line. The easement itself becomes part of the property, and it just doesn't seem to me that it's intrinsically as difficult or challenging as going to court is. And so I'd like to see the applicant comment on it.
Right now, or
No.
Oh, no.
The question
All right.
is what else is it that we ought to let you know so that you can make sure you address it and we don't have to continue again because we thought of
Yes.
something new. This is just something that I would like to have on your wish list as something that I'd like to see you address in a memorandum.
All right, so why it's a financial hardship. Okay.
Well, it doesn't have to be a financial hardship.
Well, yeah, substantial hardship,
It has to
financial
be
or
a
otherwise,
substantial
yeah.
otherwise, but I'm not sure. I mean, it isn't, I don't immediately see why it's necessarily the kind of hardship that rises to the sort of thing to recognize in a variance about solving this through the mechanism that Mr. DuPont described would be. I can see how you might do that. It might be a problem as soon as you have to go to court, but easements are done every day. They're property transactions. They're recorded in all the property books. The only thing that are different from that in a sale is that, or at least the main thing that's different, is that the easement doesn't reduce the size of the lot.
Yeah, I know. It used to not be as much of a problem, but with the price of land in Arlington, that's uh the property tax issue is on a lot of people's minds because you look at the whole value of a plot of land, usually the land is worth more than the house. So it's just getting that procedural matter with the bills that they people have to pay quarterly, every
Right.
quarter. And
Well, Mr. DuPont did address that, and I think
Yeah.
It's something. I mean, I just encourage you to follow that through in a way that on this, and you probably ought to do it on the assumption that if you're unable to persuade us, that may be the best option you have, other than waiting for town meeting to.
But definitely on the town meeting front, the zoning board definitely over the course of the year compiles a list of things that it has encountered in doing its business that relate to the zoning bylaws themselves. And this is on that list of things that we would like to bring to the attention of the redevelopment board to see if um, there is some form of remedy that could be enacted into the zoning bylaw. Because I do completely agree with your position that this is not going to be, this is maybe the first time this has come before this board, but it is certainly not going to be the last. And this is something that the town needs to come up with a way of resolving, short of ending up in land court. Is there anything further on this matter this evening before we vote to continue?
Does Jackie, do you have any comments?
Not at the moment.
All right, then with that, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Arlington continue the public hearing for docket 3865, 29 Hemlock Street to Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Mr. Hanlon. So roll call vote of the board to continue. Mr. DuPont.
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon.
Yes.
Mr. Holly.
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Yes.
Mr. Baranowski.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We are continued on 29 Hemlock Street. Thank you all for being with us this evening and for the conversation we had, and hopefully we can resolve this amicably when we come back in October.
Thank you. See you
Okay,
then.
thank you.
Thank you.
So that was the last piece of business on our agenda this evening. We'll note that the next normal date for our hearing would be Tuesday, September 23rd. We will not be having a meeting as it's Rosh Hashanah. We will have meetings on October 14th and the 28th, but then again on November 11th, we will not be meeting because it is Veterans Day and town offices will be closed. So with that, we are at the conclusion of our meeting. So I would like to thank you all for your participation in tonight's meeting of the Arlington Zoning Board of Appeals. I appreciate everyone's patience throughout the meeting, and I'd especially like to thank Colleen Ralston, Mike Champa, Mike Cunningham, and Jacqueline Munson for their assistance in preparing for and hosting this online meeting. Please note the purpose of the board's recording the meeting is to ensure the creation of an accurate record of its proceedings. It is our understanding that the recording made by ACMi will be available on demand at acmi.tv within the coming days. Arlington Community Media is dedicated to providing an electronic forum for the free exchange of information and ideas which reflect the talent, skills, interests, concerns, and diversity of the Arlington community. Please visit acmi.tv/donate to learn how to support this valuable public resource that this board heavily relies upon. If anyone has comments or recommendations, please send them via email to zba@town.arlington.ma.us. That email address is also listed on the Zoning Board of Appeals website. And to conclude tonight's meeting, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. And a second, thank you, Mr. DuPont. So roll call vote to adjourn. Mr. DuPont,
Yes.
Mr. Hanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mr. Barnowski,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. The board is adjourned. Thank you all very much. And we will see you in 4 weeks.
Good night.